All right, welcome to today's episode of Just Call Dad. We're calling this series the Morning Mobility Series. So if you're new around here, I do a ton of interview podcasts where I bring dads in that are experts in so many fields. They talk to me, and then we have this call list or this playlist that you can refer to give you some ideas on what you can do, whether you're doing well or not doing well, whether you want to accomplish a new goal or you just want to better yourself at whatever goal you're at. Essentially, the Just Call Dad podcast is this connective thread, and it's funny because now there's a social media called Threads. When I first came up with it, I didn't even know that. But this connective thread that puts everybody kind of on the same page. All of these different content creators, all of these different dad influencers, all of these people who may be in competition with each other in a way that they mean to be, or maybe they don't mean to be, puts them all on the same playing team. And so that's this idea of the book that I wrote back here called Designed to Compete, and the kids book that I wrote back here called The Emotional Shoes, is I'm on this mission to create connections between these people so that competition that used to be, hey, I'm going to try to win and lose, becomes I'm going to strive together towards a goal. And so that's the idea with Just Call Dad. And so this type of podcast, I was thinking about, I've got cool interviews. I need to have some more connective things for mobility because this podcast started from me getting hurt and me losing family members to health related things. And then I was like, okay, I can't continue on the same track. So I was on this process where I wanted to run really fast. I wanted to break 5 in a mile and I wanted to back squat 500 pounds and I wanted to do all these crazy things. I wanted to run these things and lift these things. And along the way, I lost myself. Yes, I accomplished a few of those goals, but my body fell apart. And what I realized is that being a dad, being present is priority. And so if I'm working out so much that I'm getting hurt or I'm working out so much that my body's falling apart, something's wrong and it becomes an obsession. So as I grab guests and grab different people, I try to find people who help me heal and help other dads who may be going through something similar or may eventually go through something similar, find some resources and find some opportunities to connect the dots. The other thing that I want to do is just give dads opportunities to listen to content that is going to give them an idea that they can use for the rest of their week. So today's episode and the morning mobility episodes are going to try to be 10 minutes in length. I kind of borrowed this idea from one of my guests that's going to come on in a couple weeks. Honestly, one of the people that I look up to a ton in this space, Jared Moon. Jared, I went through his course to become an end of 3 fitness coach about 10 years ago, maybe 8 to 10 years ago. And he has this thing called Garage Gym Athlete. Check it out. I was real passionate about working in my garage gym and working out there. And it's become kind of a healing space. Even though I'm hurt right now, I can still go out there and do some different things and get back in shape. And having a garage gym's been honestly, like a hospital for me in a lot of ways, mentally, physically. And so Jared was huge in that, inspirational. He has a Better Business podcast as well. So check him out. He'll be on here in a couple weeks with us on the Just Call Dad podcast. But Jared has these ideas of keeping his podcast longer and shorter. And so I kind of wanted to borrow an idea and see how this one goes, to keep a 10-minute podcast with very tangible takeaways for you as a dad if you're listening to this. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to talk about coffee and I want to talk about something that I love. So I was having stomach issues a ton. It was crazy. I was having anxiety. I was diagnosed with anxiety, and then it was like my stomach was a mess all the time. And so I went worst case scenario, as many of you dads do. And what I realized, I was just having digestive issues from being anxious all the time. And I love coffee, but I couldn't drink it all the time. And so I found this one, and this has been incredible. It's called Laird Superfood. Now, none of these things are sponsoring the podcast. If they wanted to, I guess we could talk about that. That'd be pretty cool. I listened to the Ready State podcast. If you haven't done that, please tune into the Ready State. The Ready State is incredible. I've been listening to the Ready State for a long time. I have been doing Dr. Kelly Starrett and Dr. Juliet Starrett's stuff from the time I've been a CrossFitter, and before that with Mobility WOD, Supple Leopard. But this Laird Superfood coffee was something that I found out about on their podcast, and it's been incredible. It sits in my stomach well. Same with this Orgain protein. I've got some in my shaker bottle here to drink after I get done with this episode today. Those two things have sat pretty well in my stomach, and I have a pretty sensitive stomach. I am pretty prone to that. So if you're a dad and you're like, I really need to do that, I saw something called Dad Fuel. I haven't tried that out. I know there's different options. Love to talk to any of those groups who want to talk on the podcast about their mission for dads specifically, or just for health-based stuff. So I want to have some tangible takeaways that you can watch this and say, okay, cool, maybe I go try that out. We don't have a code yet to get any money off, but I know if you use the TRS code for Laird Superfood, you can get 20 to 30% off. And I don't know about Orgain. Hey, maybe someday we'll have a Just Call Dad code that you can use as well. The next thing I want to talk about today is a car seat. So let's just get it out there, and let's just be honest, dads. If you have little kids like I do, car seats are terrible. They keep our kids safe. They're incredible for so many reasons. But when we have to take them in and out of our cars, it drives us nuts. So yesterday it was probably about 80 degrees. We had just gotten home, and I needed to fix the car seat and put it back in correctly. And what should have been a 5-minute task for me turned into about a 20-minute sweating workout of me versus a car seat. And I don't know if you've ever been in that situation, dads, but if you have, please enjoy this moment, because here I am on my driveway battling a car seat in an intergalactic Star Wars-esque battle, me versus an inanimate object. And I got done with that battle and I was just like, all right, this is life right here. Something that should be so easy became so difficult. And I really think most of the reason that it became difficult was because of the temperature. It was hot. Because of the distractions, my kids were just everywhere and they wanted to help. I don't know if you've ever had that happen with your kids, but they want to help. And when they want to help, there is a 9 out of 10 chance that they are not super helpful, but you don't want to tell them no. And so here I am battling with the car seat, thinking about life, thinking about this idea that Just Call Dad is kind of like this. I wish I could call someone and they could come down and fix that car seat. But then I also realized that it's my responsibility to do that kind of stuff for my kids, to demonstrate for them, how do I respond when I'm frustrated? Well, I'm not very good at that. I don't respond well when I'm frustrated. I either get overwhelmed, I get angry, and then recently I noticed that my middle daughter was getting angry a lot. And I had to take a moment and a pause, because I'm realizing that I'm not going to blame myself for that, but maybe she's getting angry because that's the example that she sees in me. And, I think sometimes when we listen to podcasts and we watch all these influencers, they give us 1,000 things to do or not to do. And then we find ourselves stuck and feel like, I don't know where to start. I'm going to be honest with you. Here's what you need to do. Just be you. And if you get angry, easier. If you have these issues, like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, you don't need a 7-step plan to try to fix it. It might help you to have a plan, but the first thing you need to recognize is that you're okay just the way you are. And the fact that you want to get better is actually the secret to getting better. And I think that's a lot with our healing journeys, and a lot with, I think, what a lot of dads struggle with when they watch content or access content is, they want to go out and run the 4-minute mile, or whatever some of these dads are. They want the 6-pack. They want the perfect health. I mean, who doesn't want those things? But then the problem is they get lost along the way. They get hurt, they get stuck, and they don't know who to call, because they're like, I should be better than this. I shouldn't be having these emotions. But here's the thing, you should be. And I think a lot of times the content that is created with a great purpose in mind. And that's kind of why I want to connect some of the dots, because I think that everybody has a story behind the story. So recently I was on a podcast with Ben Barker. Ben has about 252,000 followers. Currently on social media, the Just Call Dad podcast only has about 100. On Threads, we have about 1,200, which is really interesting, the disparity there. My own coaching account, which is just a small account that I created, has 700 on Instagram, and it has about 1,000 on Threads. That gives you some context. That's how small my following is versus how big Ben's following is. But yet Ben was talking about this idea of going through a lot of struggle to get to that point. I think sometimes you just see the end result and you don't see the actual process to get there. So don't get lost in the process chasing the result. All right, the last thing I want to talk about today is just a preview of the next 2 podcasts that are coming up. So I'm going to hop on Thrive with Murphy. Kyle Murphy and I are going to chat later on today about just being a dad, being an Amazon influencer, and what all that means. So be on the lookout for a new podcast drop there. Jared Moon and I are going to chat next week just about being a dad, an entrepreneur, and all the things that Jared offers. Today, if you are listening to this podcast, I'm going to drop this one almost right away. And then I'm also going to drop my podcast with Jesse Coomer. Jesse is a breathwork expert. And the reason that I waited on this one is because our book, The Emotional Shoes, is out. And his book, Moo, a Cow's Practical Way to Chilling Out, is also out now. All right, so if you haven't done it yet, I need you to just stop and pause. I want you to think about this podcast. I want you to think about some of the tangible takeaways from the podcast. And I want you to just take a breath with me and tell yourself thank you for all the progress that you made. Find somebody today to encourage in your contact list. And remember, be a dad who is just a call away. All right, Dad, you got this. Just call